I return to my childhood home a billionaire, expose my family's lies, seize my future, and choose justice and revenge over their rewrite of my life. I stand in my childhood home, a stranger after 8 years of silence. The gold pendant at my throat trembles against my skin as I take in the familiar Christmas decorations and the smell of pine mixed with roasting turkey. Nothing has changed, the same china cabinet, the same family photos on the mantel where Merrick and Clayton's faces dominate. The dining room table stretches before me like a battlefield. It's time we discuss the future of more manufacturing, my father announces, raising his glass. His voice carries the same authoritative tone that echoed through my childhood. As I approach retirement, I've made decisions about the company's leadership. My brothers straighten in their seats, exchanging quick glances. Mother smooths her napkin, eyes fixed on her plate. Merrick will take over as CEO with Clayton as COO. Father's gaze slides past me to fix on his sons. The ownership will transfer equally between them. The Moore legacy continues through my boys. The room falls silent. I feel eyes darting toward me, then quickly away. My water glass grows slick in my grip. And Arletta? My mother's voice breaks the silence, tentative as a sparrow. Father clears his throat. Arletta has chosen her path. He doesn't look at me. The tech industry, playing with gadgets. My knuckles turn white around the glass. 8 years ago, I would have lowered my eyes and accepted this dismissal. 8 years and billions of dollars later, I find myself surprisingly calm. Understood, I say, voice steady. Father nods, satisfied with my apparent submission. My mind flashes back to the day I graduated with honors in computer science. Standing in this same dining room, diploma in hand, I explained my startup concept. Neural networks could revolutionize medical diagnostics, I'd said, eyes bright with possibility. Father had laughed. Sweetheart, that's just playing with gadgets. Leave the real business to your brothers. Merrick and Clayton had nodded along, their business degrees from state school apparently worth more than my MIT education. Find a good husband, Mother had suggested, patting my hand. Someone successful. I'd left that night, applied for every loan I could find, and worked 3 jobs until the first investor believed in me. Now Father lifts his fork, the matter settled. We'll draft the paperwork after the holidays. Of course, Arletta, you could still marry someone successful. There's always that route for a woman. Anyone? The table falls silent. Mother stares at her plate. Clayton shifts uncomfortably. I continue eating, each bite deliberate. The trembling in my hand stops. I set my fork down carefully, the silver making a soft click against fine china. Thank you for clarifying where I stand. I meet his eyes directly. It's helpful to have things stated so plainly. Father blinks, unused to direct challenge. Now, Arletta. No, please. I lift my hand slightly. You've made your position clear. I appreciate the honesty. Merrick and Clayton exchange uneasy glances. They've always been the golden sons, lauded for mediocre achievements while my successes were minimized. Neither speaks in my defense now. Their silence makes them complicit. Mother's eyes dart between us. She's never stood against Father, not once in 40 years of marriage. She won't start now, not even for her only daughter. I realize, sitting at this table surrounded by family yet utterly alone, that my worth has always been measured differently. My brother's value is intrinsic, mine conditional. The revelation settles in my chest, not as pain but as clarity. Father continues discussing the transition plans for the company I helped modernize during college summers. The company whose outdated manufacturing processes I could revolutionize. The company that will never be mine. I take another sip of water, my reflection distorted in the crystal. Tomorrow, everything will change. Tonight, I let them believe they still hold all the power. The game pieces are set, they just don't know we're playing. Dessert sits half-eaten on Limoges china when my 15-year-old nephew Nico gasps. His fingers fumble with his tablet, nearly dropping it as he stares at the screen, mouth hanging open. Holy, he catches himself, glancing at his grandmother. Aunt Arletta, you're on the Forbes list. The room freezes. Merrick's fork clatters against his plate. Clayton's wineglass hovers midway to his lips. My mother's hand flies to her throat. Let me see that. Father's voice cuts through the silence, reaching for the tablet. Nico turns it toward the table instead. My face stares back at us, alongside the headline that has just detonated our Christmas dinner. $2.8 billion. Neuromedicines acquired for $4.5 billion. Father reads aloud, his voice hollow. Revolutionary neural network technology expected to transform neurological diagnostics worldwide. 8 years of struggle, compressed into a headline they can finally understand. Well, Mother smooths her napkin. This is unexpected. We need to talk. Father pushes back from the table. In the living room. Now, I follow him, wineglass in hand. Mother hurries after us, while my brothers exchange glances that speak volumes. The living room walls showcase decades of family portraits, Merrick's graduation, Clayton's wedding, my brother's flanking father at hunting trips and industry events. My absence in these photos never felt so deliberate. Father remains standing while I take a seat on the sofa, power dynamics unchanged since childhood. How long were you planning to keep this from us? His voice shakes, not with pride but accusation. I wasn't hiding anything. I sip my wine. The acquisition was announced 3 months ago. You could have called. Mother perches on the edge of an armchair, looking smaller than I remember. Like you called me? The words escape before I can soften them. Father's jaw tightens. I never thought you'd actually succeed with that computer nonsense. I was protecting you from disappointment. The truth, at last, after years of it's just a phase and leave the business to your brothers. Merrick clears his throat from the doorway. I should have told you. Arletta came to me for seed money back when she started. I turned her down because Dad said we shouldn't encourage unrealistic dreams. My chest constricts. You knew how much I needed that loan. Your brother was following my advice, Father interjects. What about my letters? I ask Mother. I wrote every Christmas for 3 years. Her eyes drop to her lap. Gordon thought it best not to respond until you came to your senses, she whispers. I intercepted them. I'm sorry, Arletta. The betrayal burns fresh, even after all these years. 3 layers of rejection from father, brother, mother, each one cutting deeper than the last. Your success must be exaggerated, Father says, waving dismissively. These tech valuations are smoke and mirrors. They'll revise that number down within months. Clayton joins us, hands in his pockets. Dad's right. These tech bubbles burst all the time. Actually, Merrick jumps in, his tone suddenly warm. We always knew you had potential, Arletta. Remember when I helped you with your computer class in high school? I stare at him. You copied my homework and got us both detention. I've been telling everyone how proud we are of you, Mother says, rewriting history before my eyes. I knew you'd do well, just not this well. Father nods, pivoting smoothly. The more drive for success. You got that from me, you know. The audacity steals my breath. 8 years of silence transformed into a lifetime of imagined support. Remember how I encouraged your college applications? Mother asks, eyes bright with invented memories. And I always said technology was the future, Father adds. Their desperate scramble to claim credit for my success should be laughable, but something in me still yearns for their approval. That small, wounded part of me that never stops seeking validation nearly welcomes their revisionist history. For a moment, I'm tempted to accept this false narrative if it means finally being embraced as family. My phone vibrates with a text from Miss Dobbins, my high school computer science teacher, who just saw the Forbes article. I always knew you'd change the world, Arletta. So proud of the girl who stayed after class to learn Python when everyone else had gone home. The simple truth of her words washes over me like cool water. She saw me, she believed. No revisionist history needed. As I sit there watching my family scramble to rewrite our history, I wonder if I should correct their false narrative, or simply let them believe what they want. Would setting the record straight bring healing, or would it only reopen old wounds that were better left closed? The next day, after the article came out, I listened from the kitchen as my father's voice booms from his study. The door stands ajar, just enough for his words to carry clearly down the hallway. Yes, Charles, she finally made it. All that guidance I gave her about persistence paid off. My father laughs, the sound grating against my nerves. I always told her to think bigger. I grip the countertop, my knuckles whitening. 8 years of silence, and now he's rewriting our history to his brother, my uncle. The same uncle who once patted my head at graduation and said, "At least you're pretty enough to marry well." My phone buzzes for the 5th time today. Cousin Rachel wants funding for her skincare line. Aunt Patricia needs a small loan for her son's college tuition. The family tree suddenly remembers I exist, branches extending toward my wallet rather than my heart. Mrs. Moore? A woman's voice pulls me from my thoughts. The kitchen helper points to the landline. The Nebraska Chronicle is on the phone. They want to schedule an interview about raising a billionaire. A bitter laugh escapes my throat before I can contain it. The woman gives me a curious look. Tell them we're unavailable, I say, the word we tasting sour on my tongue. Later, alone in my childhood bedroom, I stare at the ceiling where glow-in-the-dark stars I placed when I was 12 still cling stubbornly. The memory washes over me like cold water. 3 jobs. The campus cafeteria at dawn, the library help desk between classes, and the 24-hour diner until midnight, my hands perpetually smelling of disinfectant and French fries. After father refused to pay for MIT, telling me computer science was wasting good money, I'd survived on determination and 4 hours of sleep. I remember crying silently in my dorm room, 3 years into my startup, when our first investor pulled out. The pitch deck was scattered across my bed, red marked with rejections. That night, I'd nearly given up. Then came the email that changed everything. A father in Detroit, whose 8-year-old daughter had been misdiagnosed 3 times. My neural network caught what specialists had missed, a rare form of treatable epilepsy. "You gave my daughter her life back," he'd written. I printed that email and still carry the folded paper in my wallet, edges soft from handling. A soft knock interrupts my thoughts. I wipe away unexpected moisture from my eyes. "Aunt Arletta?" A small voice calls through the door. "Can I come in?" Lacey stands in the doorway, clutching a laptop to her chest. At 13, she has Merrick's height but none of his swagger. My computer science teacher assigned this coding project, and I thought, maybe. She looks at her feet. "I want to be like you, not like them." For the first time since arriving, my smile feels genuine, reaching my eyes as warmth spreads through my chest. "Come here," I say, patting the bed beside me. "Let's see what we're working with." Later, I find myself standing outside my father's wood-paneled home office. The space remains frozen in time, agricultural equipment models displayed on shelves, awards from the Manufacturing Association hanging on walls, the scent of leather and Old Spice. Gordon sits behind his mahogany desk, reading glasses perched on his nose as he reviews papers. He looks smaller somehow, less intimidating than in my memories. "You wanted to see me?" I keep my voice neutral. He removes his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "I've been thinking about what happened at dinner the other night." I wait, crossing my arms. "I just wanted to protect you from failure, Arletta." His voice softens. "The tech world is brutal. 9 out of 10 startups fail. I didn't want you to get hurt." The familiar justification ignites something inside me, years of dismissal crystallizing into clarity. "You weren't protecting me," I say, voice steady. "You were silencing me." His eyes widen slightly. "Every time I shared an idea, you called it playing with gadgets. When I graduated with honors, you suggested I find a husband instead of building a company." My hands remain steady, my voice calm despite the fire in my chest. "That wasn't protection. That was control. Now wait a minute. I never needed your permission to succeed, Dad." The realization fills me with unexpected lightness. I needed it to feel worthy of success. There's a difference. He stares at me, mouth partially open, no words emerging. My mind drifts to Miss Dobbins, my high school computer science teacher, and the after-school hours she spent helping me apply for scholarships behind my father's back. "Your mind is exceptional, Arletta," she told me. "Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." While my family saw limitations, others saw potential. The contrast couldn't be clearer now as I stand taller in my father's office than I ever had before. "There's a family dinner tomorrow," I say, moving toward the door. I think it's time everyone heard the real story. Back in my room, I open my laptop, reviewing the audio recordings of my father's contradictory statements from the past 2 days, the lies about his support, the revisionist history. Tomorrow will change everything. I save the files to a folder labeled Truth and close my computer. Tomorrow night, from downstairs, I hear my father's voice calling everyone to the living room. "While we gather, I'd like to make a toast," he announces as I descend the stairs, "to my successful daughter who followed my advice." The crystal glasses clink. I smile, saying nothing, yet I raise my glass, mirroring my father's gesture from the night before. The room falls silent. My family watches with expressions ranging from curiosity to unease. To family, I begin, my voice steady, and to truth. I lock eyes with each person around the table as I speak, a deliberate cadence to my words. 8 years ago, I stood in this dining room with my MIT diploma, the 4th of June, 2017. I explained my neural network concept for medical diagnostics. Father shifts in his chair. I continue without pausing. After being told to find a good husband instead of pursuing my gadget playing, I applied for 23 loans, all rejected. I looked directly at Merrick, including the one I asked you to co-sign on the 15th of July. Mother's eyes widen. She hadn't known this detail. I worked 3 jobs simultaneously, the Starbucks on Cooper Avenue from 5 to noon, tech support at Midwest Data from 1 to 6, coding freelance until 2 in the morning. I take a sip of water. For 18 months straight. November 2019, Dr. Chen became my first investor. By 2022, our platform had diagnosed early-stage neurological conditions in over 4,000 patients. Aunt Patricia whispers something to Uncle Ray. I maintain my rhythm. Last month, Neuromedicines was acquired for $4.5 billion. I set my glass down with a soft clink against the table. Not because I married well, not because I got lucky, because I refuse to accept the limitations placed on me in this room. Father clears his throat, face flushed. Now, Arletta, I always believed in you, in my own way. Really? I ask, one eyebrow raised. You were just so young, he continues, voice strained. A woman in tech, I was protecting you from disappointment. Dad explicitly forbade us from helping you, Merrick blurts out, surprising even himself. He glances at our father, then back at me. He said if we gave you money or connections, we'd be cut from the will. Clayton's fork drops against his plate. Merrick, what are you doing? Is that true? Mother turns to father, color draining from her face. I intercepted your letters because he told me to, she admits, looking at me with tears forming. He said letting you fail would teach you to appreciate family more. Aunt Patricia stands abruptly. Gordon, you told us Arletta refused your help. The room erupts in crossed accusations, years of carefully maintained family mythology crumbling in real time. When Clayton suggests we simply move forward and forget the past, I hesitate. Should I accept this superficial peace for the sake of family harmony or insist on genuine acknowledgement of the truth before any reconciliation could begin? My phone buzzes. Connor's name appears on the screen. My boyfriend of 3 years before I left Nebraska, the one who said my dreams were cute but suggested I focus on realistic goals. The text reads, saw you in Forbes, always knew you had potential. Coffee when you're in town? I show the message to my cousin Trish beside me, who rolls her eyes. I type back, thanks, but I prefer to leave the past in the past. I press send while everyone watches. A small act, but the message lands. Several family members nod with newfound respect. You had Thanksgiving dinner with the governor last month, Aunt Patricia says, breaking the awkward silence. Your cousin Joanne saw the pictures. The governor's daughter uses our platform at her hospital, I explain. She credits it with saving her father's life after detecting early signs of a stroke. Father stares at his hands. When he looks up, his eyes are wet. I was wrong about you, he says, voice breaking on the final word. The admission hangs in the air, not an apology, but the closest thing to one I've ever heard from him. Around the table, expressions change. Aunt Patricia squeezes my shoulder as she passes to refill her coffee. Uncle Ray asks thoughtful questions about my company. Cousins who barely acknowledged me yesterday now lean in when I speak. Maybe, I suggest, setting down my napkin, we should have a proper family meeting to discuss how we move forward from here. Father nods slowly. I think that would be appropriate. For the first time in 8 years, we might actually listen to each other. 2 weeks after the dinner confrontation, one Wednesday afternoon, Father leans forward across his mahogany desk, the same desk where he'd signed countless documents excluding me from the family legacy. The afternoon light catches the silver in his hair as he slides a folder toward me with the careful precision of a chess player. We've been thinking, he says, voice unnaturally bright. More manufacturing should reflect all the Moore children. I open the folder. Inside lies a mock-up of new company letterhead with Moore and Daughter Manufacturing emblazoned, across the top in glossy navy text. My stomach tightens. We've already printed promotional materials, Merrick adds, pointing to a stack of brochures on the corner of the desk. The announcement goes out next week. Clayton clears his throat. The board thinks your profile could attract new investors. He shuffles his feet. The company could use a cash infusion. You've done well for yourself, Father says, his voice softening into the tone he once used when asking me to be reasonable about giving up my MIT scholarship. Imagine what your expertise and resources could do for the family business. I run my finger over the letterhead, feeling the raised text beneath my fingertip. After all these years of dismissal, they finally found a use for me. My money, my reputation, my success, they had no part in building. I appreciate the thought, I say, closing the folder with a soft click. Good. Father nods, his shoulders relaxing. We'll schedule the press conference for... I didn't say yes. My voice slices through his premature celebration. Father blinks, momentarily disoriented. But you said... I said I appreciated the thought, which I do. I stand, smoothing my skirt. It's a revealing one. The grandfather clock in the corner ticks heavily into the silence. Mother shifts in her chair by the window, her eyes darting between Father and me like a trapped bird. I've been doing some thinking too, I continue, about legacy and impact. I open my laptop, turning the screen toward them. The web page displays a professionally designed site with the Moore Innovation Fund at the top, underneath a banner of women in hard hats, lab coats, and business attire. What is this? Father leans forward, squinting. I'm creating a $10 million endowment for women in STEM and manufacturing, focusing specifically on Nebraska entrepreneurs. I scroll down to show the application portal. We're already accepting submissions for our first round of grants. Clayton's mouth opens and closes without sound. Merrick grips the edge of the desk. $10 million, Mother whispers. To start. I close the laptop. The companies these women build will change the landscape of American manufacturing. They'll create jobs, innovations, and entirely new markets. But the family business, Father begins, will remain exactly what it's always been. I meet his gaze steadily. Your legacy. I don't need your legacy, Father. I've built my own. The muscle in his jaw twitches, a familiar sign of mounting frustration. For the first time, I don't feel the automatic urge to placate him. Let's discuss this over dinner, Mother suggests, her voice thin with tension. We migrate to the dining room, that battlefield where Father first announced my disinheritance. The table stretches between us, polished to a high gleam that reflects the chandelier light. Crystal glasses catch and scatter rainbows across the tablecloth. Father carves the roast with short, forceful strokes. This fund of yours, he says finally. It's a nice charity project, but real business requires experience. The fund isn't charity, I correct him. It's investment. I turn toward Mother, who startles slightly under the unexpected attention. I'd like you to join the board of directors, Mom. The carving knife freezes mid-slice. Mother's water glass stops halfway to her lips. Lorraine doesn't know the first thing about business, Father sputters. She's never worked a day. She raised 3 children while maintaining this house and supporting your career, I counter. She managed family finances, organized charitable events, and built community connections that benefited more manufacturing for decades. Mother sets her glass down carefully. Gordon always handled the important decisions, she says softly. And how has that worked for you? I ask her directly. A strange expression crosses her face, something between fear and curiosity. The board meets quarterly, I continue. First meeting is in February. You'd have a vote on all funding decisions. She can't possibly, Father begins. I accept, Mother says. The words fall into the room like stones into still water. Father's fork clatters against his plate. Lorraine, he says, voice low with warning. Mother straightens in her chair. It's time I had a voice too, Gordon. The remainder of dinner passes in weighted silence. Merrick studies his plate while Clayton attempts small talk that dies quickly. Mother eats with surprising appetite. Her movements more decisive than I've seen in years. Weeks later, rumors reach me through business channels. Father has started seeing Dr. Hanover, a therapist specializing in controlling behavior. Clayton mentions it casually during our monthly video call, as if discussing the weather. People can change, my brother says, not quite meeting my eyes. At least, that's what Dad's learning. I think of Mother preparing for her first board meeting, calling me with questions about Robert's Rules of Order. I think of the first grant recipient, a woman developing biodegradable packaging materials, crying when we called with the news. The day before I leave San Francisco for a tech conference in Boston, Father calls. His voice sounds different, less certain, more human. Arletta, he says, my name awkward in his mouth after years of minimal use. Will you come back next Christmas? The question hangs between us, fragile and loaded with unspoken history. I look at the calendar on my office wall, already marked with next year's plans. I'll think about it, I tell him, and for the first time, I mean it. A year later, during Christmas time, I pull into the familiar driveway, no longer hiding who I've become. Through the windshield, I see them gathered on the porch, not the stiff, formal reception of years past, but genuine smiles, open arms. My mother waves enthusiastically, a gesture that would have seemed impossibly exuberant just a year ago. Aunt Arletta, Lacey races down the steps, her tablet clutched to her chest. At 15, she's all gangly limbs and fierce intelligence. I need to show you something. Inside, the house feels different. The same furniture, the same Christmas decorations. But the air has shifted, no longer charged with unspoken resentments. It breathes more freely now. I wrote this program myself, Lacey whispers, pulling me into a corner. Her Python code fills the screen, clumsy in places, brilliant in others. Mom said computers are for boys, but I showed her your TED Talk about neural networks. I squeeze her shoulder. Keep going, the world needs your mind. My brothers greet me with handshakes that turn into awkward hugs. Clayton's eyes hold an apology still working its way to his lips. Merrick mentions a manufacturing problem his team can't solve, asking my opinion without the defensive edge that once coded his words. When dinner is served, I take my place at the table, the same table where everything shattered and began to rebuild. Father stands at the head, carving the turkey with steady hands. His hair has more silver now, his posture less rigid. Before we eat, he says, lifting his glass, I want to toast my children, each successful in their own way. His eyes meet mine directly, no longer sliding past. I'm proud of all of you. A year ago, these words would have been everything. Validation I'd craved like oxygen. Now I accept them with a smile, feeling their warmth without needing their heat to survive. The neural interface your company developed for stroke patients. Mother mentions between bites. The Times called it revolutionary. I explain the technology without downplaying its importance or my role in its creation. No more shrinking to fit someone else's idea of my place. My voice carries the authority of someone who knows her worth. The doorbell chimes, and I rise. That's my guest. Miss Dobbins enters with a bottle of wine and a lifetime of believing in students when no one else would. Her gray hair is styled in a sleek bob now, her posture still teacher straight at 70. You remember Miss Dobbins, I say, though everyone does. She taught 3 generations of Moors, surviving my father's budget cuts when he chaired the school board. Later, when glasses are refilled, I stand. To those who see our potential, when we can't see it ourselves. Miss Dobbins blinks rapidly, her glasses fogging slightly. My father nods, something humble in the gesture. Spring sunshine floods my San Francisco office 6 months later as I adjust my camera. 30 teenage girls from rural Nebraska stare back from my monitor, their faces eager during our virtual coding workshop. Never let anyone tell you what you can't build, I tell them, spotting Lacey in the corner of my screen. She's already helping the girl beside her debug her code. Nico, my brother's son, pokes his head into my office. The investors are here, Aunt Arletta. His summer internship has already taught him more than 4 years of business school taught my brothers. On my desk sits a new family portrait from Easter. My mother stands tall, confidence radiating from her posture. The More Innovation Fund board position suits her. Father stands beside me, not above me, his hand resting lightly on my shoulder. As I look at our new family portrait, I wonder which matters more in the end, being right about the past or being open to a different future. Would you choose to hold on to the satisfaction of vindication or embrace the possibility of genuine change, even if it means letting go of justified resentment?